I'm just viewing a whole bunch of videos today about on the subject of nationalism, and the one I'm looking at now is Mark Collett on Millennial on the subject of being falsely accused of a sexual offence. The background behind the story is that Millennial Woes was accused, and Mark Collett dumped him like a hot potato. He just assumed his guilt. Because this thing about nationalists is that I don't know why they call themselves nationalists, really. They're just mostly plebeian racists. And I know how quickly they abandon each other. I know of the suicide of Frank Fort, who was in the party. He was a member of the BNP. I don't particularly remember him in person, but I know that he was accused and convicted of a historic sexual offence and went to jail for it, and most of them shunned him. He recently committed suicide. And I only discovered it when somebody told me that, you should stop posting on his wall, stop posting on his timeline because he's, passed on. So I had a look, and it's a bit embarrassing sometimes. You think, oh dear, this person's timeline is mostly full of your own posts. Anyway, that was the case with Frank. But this seems to suggest that I'm one of the last few people who had any contact with him, any meaningful contact with him, in the sense that I would be discussing politics, and I think all discussions to do with politics are meaningful, even if there is no resolution or agreement. So I know that these plebeian racists are very treacherous towards each other. They don't defend each other. They will assume the guilt of one of them. They don't understand due process. No, they don't. And now their prince, a British prince, is being accused of a historic sexual offence, and they're just gloating. All these people, all these British subjects, technically, if you have a monarch, you have subjects gloating at the prospect of Andrew being dragged down for a crime. No, it's not a crime. It's not a crime to have sex with a 17-year-old. In the UK in 2001, and Andrew was confident enough to appear on Newsnight because he had an alibi. Apparently, that counts for nothing in our fallen times. There are no lawyers who are talking about due process or alibis or burden of proof, standard of proof, any of those basic legal principles that you would have thought a law graduate would understand. Not a bit of it. So Millennial Woes and I, we go back a long way. I had a history of, he would say that I'd been harassing him because he wouldn't have me on the Millennial of a previous year. In fact, I always start up nice. I always start up nice. Why wouldn't I? Anyway, when people are when people want to break up with you, they'll find any reason not to, do what you want and, just take offense at every single thing you said. And basically, from memory, that was what happened. And obviously, I wasn't going to just forget about it and keep silent. And I had a number of questions that I wanted to ask, um, and these were asked on Ask FM. And well, he did complain, in his streams. He did complain about me going on, and I think at one stage he even said I should be deported. He said I should be deported. So it's all right. I can take it. But anyway, when it all happened, I still remember the sequence of events that um, Luke Ford in LA decided to feature it and talk about it, and I was posting in the chat as well, and I defended him, and I said, well, I didn't think Millennial Woes was the sort of man who wouldn't stop if a woman asked him to stop, because that was what I thought. I mean, I wouldn't feel exactly frightened to be alone with him, or indeed most men. I think you just know how to handle yourself. I mean, most men, even if they harbour dishonourable intentions towards you, you can convey a whole lot of information about whether you're receptive to an advance or not, using non-verbal visual cues. So it's not really that hard. A woman who can handle herself would not be, afraid of somebody who's not actually some, crazy serial sex offender. Anyway, we know that Millennial Woes was accused of some sexual impropriety in a patriotic alternative conference, and Mark Collett, without investigating the matter, decided he was guilty. Threw him to the wolves, hung him out to dry. I defended him because I'm like that. And I mentioned Frankfurt because he must have been very lonely to be shunned by the very people that he thought were his political comrades. They all shunned him and abandoned him, and then he killed himself when apparently somebody posted something unkind on his, I don't know the exact details. But this is how they behave, these plebeian races who don't understand due process. And I thought I'd mention how useful it would have been if secular Koranism was already in place when Colin was accused. Because I don't think it would have happened at all, because the whole point of chapter 24, verse 4 of the Quran is that if you falsely accuse someone of sexual impropriety, you would be liable to suffer 80% of their punishment that they would have received if convicted. So if you accuse a chaste woman of fornication or adultery, the penalty would be 100 lashes. And therefore, 80 lashes is the appropriate punishment for a false accuser. And I think that's fair enough, don't you? So it's just something that should be noted by those Islamophobes and nationalism who refuse to talk about secular Koranism. Because what? Because it's not British.